Battle of Vimy Ridge, battle between Canadians and Germans. Canadian troops practiced formations and tactics. Captured German troops began April 9th. Part of Battle of Arras. Battle of Ypres. First gas attack. Battle between Germans and Allied armies. Germans introduced poison gas. Conscription. Compulsory Enlistment or Call-Up Act of the Citizens for Military Services. In 1917, Canadians needed more troops because of the failure of voluntary recruitment. Treaty of Versailles. The end of World War I, France, England, and Italy and the U.S. leaders were involved. Germans could not participate. War was ended between Germany and Allied powers. Billy Bishop. An individual that attacked Germans, shot 3 enemy planes, top Canadian and British Empire ace of the war. Residential schools. Residential schools were government-sponsored religious schools that were established to assimilate Indigenous children into Euro-Canadian culture. Emily Carr and Group of 7. Canadian artist and writer inspired by Indigenous peoples, Canada's most famous painter. Flappers, women known for their energetic freedom, entertainment, push berries for economic, political, and sexual freedom for women. Model T cars. Cars were luxury. Henry Ford sold 15 million Model Ts. Prohibition. 18th Amendment banned the manufacture. Transportation and liquor went into effect. Television. American inventor Charles Francis Jenkins sent photos over to Herbert Hoover. Demonstrated mechanical television using revolving disc in 1925. Stock market crash. Overproduction of goods, wheat to manufactured products. Easy profits, credit overused, propensity grew and business expanded. Government raised taxes, labor machine invented, men lost their jobs. Winnipeg general strike lasted 6 weeks. The pros were pride, Canada equal with Britain, international praise, economic boom, and women right to vote. Cons: 1/3 of Canadian enlistments were casualties, French versus English division, labor camps, and national debt. On to Ottawa Trek. Protest movement in 1935, unemployed men in federal relief camps and welfare, poor quality foods, lack of leisure facilities, men were only paid 20 cents. War Measures Act. Federal law, passed by Parliament August 22, 1914, gave government broad powers to maintain security and order. Nazism. Political principles of the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Ideology of the German Nazi Party. Nazi National Socialist. Dictatorship. Form of government in which an individual possesses power without effective constitutional limitations. Women in World War II. Most volunteered for Red Cross, worked at factories. Over 200,000 served in the military. Concentration camps. Approximately 12,000 people were forced to live in internment camps, men separated from families. About 700 Japanese Canadian men sent to prisoner of war camps in Ontario. Pearl Harbor. Unprovoked attack of the Japanese versus United States, December 7, 1941. Japanese destroyed nearly 20 American naval vessels, 8 battleships, and over 300 planes. Atomic bombs. President Truman invented atomic bombs to bring about Japan's surrender in World War II. Communism. Private property does not exist, has liberal democracy, everything is owned communally, equally and employed. Income is limited and results in poverty. Japanese internment camps. Pacific War started to lead to discrimination. Japanese Canadians were categorized as enemy allies under the War Measures Act. Meech Land Accord. An agreement between federal and provincial government to amend a change in constitution. The accord proposed strengthening provincial powers and declaring Quebec a distinct society. Baby boom. Lots of babies. They wanted to start families. Great Depression came to an end. Birth rate increased. Immigration. Immigration during World War I and II was impacted by the war effort. Many countries restricted immigration to prioritize their own citizens and soldiers. The wars also led to increased demand for labor, which led to some countries allowing immigrants to enter to fill these jobs. Korean War. War between North and South Korea. North Korea invaded South Korea. Alaskan boundary. The Alaskan boundary was a dispute over the boundary line between Alaska and Canada, which was resolved in favor of the United States with the signing of the Alaska Boundary Treaty in 1903. Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was a conflict between North and South Vietnam, and with the United States and other countries supporting South Vietnam, and lasted from 1955 to 1975. NATO. NATO, or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a political and military alliance of North American and European countries formed in 1949 for mutual defense and security. NORAD. NORAD, or the North American Aerospace Defense Command, is a joint military organization of the United States and Canada responsible for aerospace warning and control. United States. The United States is an international organization founded in 1945 to promote peace, security, and cooperation among member countries, with 193 member states as of 2021. Suez Crisis. The Suez Crisis was an international conflict in 1956 in which Israel, with the support of France and the United Kingdom, invaded Egypt and took control of the Suez Canal, leading to a diplomatic crisis and eventually a ceasefire. The Canadian Constitution in the Supreme Law of Canada, consisting of the Constitution Act 1982 and other acts and unwritten conventions, which outlines the country's system of government, rights and freedoms, and the relationship between the federal and provincial governments. Canadian flag. The Canadian flag, also known as the maple leaf, is a red and white flag with a stylized 11-pointed red maple leaf in the center, which was adopted in 1965 to replace the previous Canadian red ensign. Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall was a barrier constructed by the German Democratic Republic in 1961 to separate East and West Berlin, which became a symbol of the Cold War and division of Germany, until it was finally dismantled in 1986. Afghan War. The Afghan War began in 2001 when the U.S. invaded Afghanistan to remove the Taliban from power and eliminate al-Qaeda's presence in the country, and it continues to this day. FLQ. The FLQ was a separatist group in Quebec, Canada, that used terrorism to achieve Quebec independence in the 1960s and 1970s, including the kidnapping and murder of government officials and the October Crisis in 1970. Terry Fox, the man who doesn't have a leg, has cancer. He ran to get money. Yeah, he's a hero. September 11th, 2001. On September 11, 2001, a series of 4 coordinated terrorist attacks by the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda on the United States killed nearly 3,000 people and caused significant damage to the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Virginia. Russian-Ukraine War. In 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, sparking a war that has caused significant damage to both countries and resulted in thousands of deaths, as well as international condemnation and sanctions against Russia.